Welcome to the Country Fried Outdoors Chasing Your Experience podcast. The podcast that will connect you to resources regionally and nationwide to engage them in open, honest discussions so that we can inspire the growth that you need to chase the experience you want. So strap yourself in because here we go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Country Fried Outdoors Chasing Your Experience podcast. We are on episode number 3 of the mini-series with the Scrape Doctor as we start diving into everything mock scrapes, the why, the how, the what, digging deep into that topic. And once again, on the air with me right now is the Scrape Doctor himself, James Holm. How are you, sir?
Sean, I'm doing fantastic. How are you tonight?
You know what? If I was any better, I would probably explode. It's a great night. Any night I get to sit down and talk about hunting is a good night.
Yeah, you're not wrong about that. So yeah, we're getting into this now. I think we've gone down into this pretty far. We got a little bit more to talk about still. So yeah,
We do.
Let's get into this and get some of this started. Get talking about some of this now, and we'll get off topic or whatever we normally do here in just a minute. But let's get right into this and talk about some of this.
I'm sure you're absolutely right. We will get off topic at some point in time, but as Donald Trump calls it, it's the weave. You got to weave in and out. As long as you get back to the original topic, you're good. So, but anyways, so on episode 3 now, with our topic, we'll disclose it here shortly, but just a quick recap is that we all started with why in episode number 1. So we dove into the why and the why not of using mock scrapes. Episode 2, that you guys hopefully have seen by now, and I highly recommend, if you've not seen these yet, that you go back and watch them in order. And I'm sure James will tell you the exact same thing. Watch these things in order.
Absolutely.
It'll make more sense to you. So episode 2, we talked all about height, which is probably, James, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's probably like the number one mistake most people make with their mock scrapes, is they hang their licking branches too high, or they use a natural one that's too high.
Height and location are the two biggest mistakes people make. Location is obviously very important, but height is the most important thing. If the deer can't reach it or smell it, they're not going to use it. So you set yourself up for failure.
So you're telling me you like those photos we see with a buck standing up, rubbing their antlers into something that they have to really stretch out to get? That's not right.
I've been saying all along that that's not what you want to see. Yeah, it's exciting to see those bucks. They look giant standing on those hind legs like that up in there. But all they're doing is looking for a licking branch that they can reach. They'll be frustrated soon enough and be gone over to the neighbors. So
the neighbor's place where they can reach the licking branches. Right, exactly. Right. So now with all that, now tonight on today's episode or tonight's episode, whenever you happen to watch this, we are going to be talking about probably a really important part of it, and it's the number one communication piece behind mock scrapes, and that is proper scent.
Yeah, absolutely. Proper scent is obviously the key thing. You've got to be using the right thing. You've got to be using something that the deer want. You want the deer to want to interact with it. You want them to want it. And there are a lot of products out there that you don't quite get the bang for your buck, honestly. And as we've discussed this before on and off the air, I won't drop names. I'm not dropping any product names. I won't talk about anybody else's product specifically. I will just say that for proper licking branch use and to get the deer to interact with your licking branches the proper way, you're going to want to use some sort of a pre-orbital gland derivative, whether it's a natural scent or a synthetic scent, which obviously is what our Scrape Magic is a synthetic pre-orbital gland with a few other happy things added to it for other instinctual behaviors.
Wait a minute, you tell me I don't want to use doe pee up on my licking branch?
No,
isn't that what the bucks are looking for?
I'm not sure that putting any pee in the branches is going to do you a whole lot of good, because I don't think And at least I've never caught it on camera. I've never witnessed it from the stand or the blind. I've not one time seen a deer walking through the woods on their front legs, spraying urine into those licking branches and on the bushes. But if you or any of your listeners have a video of that happening, please send that to the scrape doctor, because I'll pay you for it. If you can send me one of those and it's not an AI created thing, if you can send me a legitimate deer on its front feet peeing in the trees and the licking branches, I'll buy it from you and use it for advertisement.
And change my whole perspective of things. Well, you know what? In today's world, I guess there's no such thing as always and never. So somebody somewhere will have something for you for that. But
I absolutely know that they will, because I've read it, you've read it, that people continue to use urine-based products in the licking branches, on their ropes, on their vines. Um, Stop it. Just stop it. It's unnatural to the deer. Yep, they'll come up and sniff it and do what they do, but if you're using the proper scent in the proper place, your success and your interaction in these places will be hugely more successful than it is now. If you've got a buck coming to a urine vine 3 times a week, you use the proper scent on there, like some sort of pre-orbital scent or a derivative thereof, and you're going to get every single day at that vine. You're not going to get 3 times a week. You're going to get 7 times a week and multiple visits per day, because it's what belongs there.
so you say that's what belongs there. So let's dive into that real quick. So why is it the preorbital scent that we're going for? Why that?
It is the main communication gland that a deer uses, which is the one in the right here. We all know that you see the buck rubbing that preorbital gland on a stick, on a licking branch, on a vine, branches, whatever. They have a forehead gland. They rub that in there as well. That's part of the pheromones and the smells that they use, and that's the stuff that we're recreating with the scrape magic. And the reason we go with synthetic is flat cost. It's cost to the consumer.
Well, I'd imagine trying to keep up with the natural scent could be pretty costly. And I don't know the process behind it. I've not been involved in that side of it. Um, but you do see a significant difference. And we'll just, some of the more popular scents out there, then let's say if they're natural, can run you anywhere between $20 to $60, if not more, right? If I come to you and I get a bottle of your scrape magic, what, 13.99? What's that?
12.99.
12, yeah, 12.99. So there is a price difference,
Yep.
right? And I think one of the funniest things, and we're guys, and this is, you know how guys are. We get something that stinks. What's the first thing we do? We gotta open it up and say, "Here, you gotta smell this," right? give it to our friends. Like, oh, I think that's how I think it's in the past how we used to judge how good a scent was
Yep.
or hunting was, and how many guys made a face, right? Is this a 3-face or a 5-face scent? And if it's a 5-face, then you're on to something good there. But with your stuff, right? We've talked about this before. Like, you can open that up and smell it, and you don't gag, right?
No.
It smells. It sounds weird for me to say this, but it smells good. But it actually smells like, to me, it smells like a buck. Is what it smells like. It smells like a deer, a buck. If I've been trailing say like a rutting buck was in an area. Now it's not necessarily supposed to mimic a rutting buck, but
No.
a rutting buck picks up. They're pretty musky, right? They
Yep.
have a scent to them. And if you kick one up from a bed, or if one was in the area right before you got there, like, that scent is still there. And that's kind of what this reminds me of, is that scent, right? And this is all synthetic, no natural derivatives in this, which, in today's world, with some states locking down on natural products, locking down on feeding, locking down on anything that's supplemental because of their response to CWD. Let's just call it what it is. It's their response to CWD and their hope that they'll be able to slow their spread down by doing this. Synthetics are starting to be more in the forefront of the conversation. right, wrong, or indifferent, but they are. And I've said it before in the podcast with you that I think you went the right direction going synthetic.
Yeah.
Um, because CWD is one of those things that's not going anywhere. Where it's going to be part of our culture here pretty soon. So, but yeah, and so back to scents and start talking and getting really deep dive into these scents here.
Yeah.
And I know and I'm not even going to name, like, we know everyone has seen this product before, right? And this product it's a dripper, right? It's a bag. It's got a little coiled up tube on it, and it's supposed to drip during the daytime. Normally, what you put in there is a urine based scent, right?
Yeah.
And they told you when you're using this, like, yeah, you want it to drip down on like the ground, but if you can get it to hit a branch on the way down to create a licking branch, that's even better. And like you said, like, I don't remember any deer ever peeing that high up into a tree. And I would imagine that would be, it might spark, and we talked earlier in the other podcast that you're going to get two C's from a deer. You're going to get curious or cautious from a deer. You throw something like that at them, you're going to get a cautious response from them.
Yeah.
They're like, something's not right here. They're not as dumb as as people like to make them out to be.
They're agreed. They're not as dumb as a lot of people make them out to be, but they're also not quite as smart as a lot of people make them out to be either. And also with the use of that dripper bag, I've talked to a lot of guys. I talked at least 3 guys that I know right now. They use them every year. They switch out the rest of their ropes and vines and all of that for drippers. They pull that other stuff out and hang a dripper in place of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked the one guy, why would you do that? Why would you take away all that communication and that scent and that all of that? Why would you take that away to add a dripper? I said, add the dripper to the setup. Make it realistic. Hang it off to the other side so it doesn't get on your rope or whatever. Hang it so it drips in the scrape where it belongs.
Mm-hmm.
So he did, and said, I've never gotten so many pictures like that on my cameras. And I said, what do you mean like that? He said, well, the deer come in and sniff the scrape and rubbing the branches and then are digging at the ground. I said, right. I said, they're working the scrape because it's laid out the way that it's meant to be laid out. I said, if you put the urine in the trees, it's not right. I said, it's not natural. I said, how often do you see them digging in the pawing in the scrape? He said, well, not very often. I said, because the branches absorb all that urine. So it never makes it to the ground. I said, it's not set up properly. I said, there's a time and a place for urine in your scrape. All 10 to 12 days of it. That's it. And like we've talked about before, I'll die on that hill. That 10 to 12 days, 2 weeks, that's it. It's the only time it really matters. Yeah. Not saying that's the only time you should use urine, maybe, but it's the only time it really matters. It's the only time it's truly, in my opinion, going to create any difference in the scrape at all.
Yeah, so I'll use, and so with your Estrus RX,
Yep.
which, since we're on the topic, good old TikTok, I did a video, a quick short, and I had it for Instagram, and I just redid it for TikTok and put it on TikTok, and it says Estrus RX, right? And most people, Scrape Doctor RX, you make the connection there, it's a play, right? Fortunately, TikTok apparently thought I was using drugs in that video. Whatever their AI was, probably seen RX, and so that video got flagged for excessive drug use. And literally, folks, if you've not seen it, you can go to the TikTok account, watch the video or not. I really don't care. But all it was I like, hey, I'm in the woods. I got some products from Scrape Doctor. I got their Scrape Magic and their Estrus RX. Yep. I made a mock scrape. I put the Scrape Magic on the grapevine that was my licking branch. I sprayed the Estrus RX in the dirt, and that was it. That was the end of the video. And I got flagged for drug abuse. Yeah. So apparently their AI or whatever picked up on the RX there.
They haven't gotten mine yet, any of my RX posts yet, but we'll see. I haven't made any since last fall. They may have upgraded the bots.
Well, I don't know, maybe. But anyways, 50% of my.
So yeah, 50% back to these sets.
50% of my stuff got flagged anyways. But yeah, so I use that Estrus RX. I use that actually. I actually will use that pretty much through all of November.
Yep.
if there was rutting activity, I was using it, right? If I knew in typically, I'll be honest with you, we usually get rutting activity. It's hot and heavy in November, mid to late November. It's really hot and heavy. And then December, it starts to wane off. You still have some here and there. And then January, you'll get little pockets of it, like just small pockets of it.
Yeah.
And then by February, it's all done.
Yeah.
And but I wouldn't I wouldn't continue to use that in November. I didn't continue to use that in January because it's not natural at that point in time because now you're just waiting for one or two does that might come back into estrus. But pretty much all of November I use that scent. So
Yeah, I mean, you get through the first part of the rut there when the bulk of the does estrus out and get bred, and then the ones that don't get bred are going to swing back through and come into estrus. But then you get those fawns if they're big enough to come into estrus. You know what I mean? If they're big enough and have grown enough, born early enough, they'll come in, and you can go out the second week of December up. That's usually generally when we get our second
yeah.
little flurry there, that second estrus, that second week of December. Well, it's normally generally around the time our muzzleloader season starts is when that we get that late push. And it truly is a trickle. It doesn't last very long. But if you can time it and lead into that and go out a couple of days before and start whacking some of these scrapes with the estrus and really lay open blast your licking branches again real hard, you'll get a huge flurry of activity from that. But it's not going to be Halloween rut. It's not going to be November rut. You know what I mean? It's not going to be at all like that. Um, Very much more subdued than that, and you may miss it if you're not paying attention. So, but
Oh yeah.
that's honestly, that's not really something that most guys are going to do that are using mock scrapes is push all the way into January. They don't
Right.
want to. Most people don't want
No.
to hunt that late, that far into the year. You know,
Cold. I don't want to be out there.
and if you live as far north as I do, by January last year we had 150 inches of snow. So
We didn't have that much. We did get a little bit of snow last year. We didn't get that much. We had I think at one time we had a drop of about 6 inches, and then that was about the last little bit of snow we got.
I think the place that I think our new lease had, I think the town that it's in, the last count for the season was 269 inches for the season. So yeah, that's a bit of snow.
That's a lot of snow.
Yeah, yeah.
So we back on. So urine is not a good thing to be putting up on the. I mean, I think that's just that should be common sense to most people that you don't want to put urine up in the air, right? What are some common misconceptions though when people are using like urine? Like, isn't one of them like,
Well,
well, you'll get it up in the air current and it'll spread
right, you
further? Is
get it.
that?
You get the. Oh yeah, if you put it sprayed up in there, it's going to carry on the wind and it'll get in the thermals and the bucks will follow it in and all of this and that. Well,
Mhm.
if you get the wind right and you get all of those things right every time, sure, but you're not going to build patterns in your scrapes with urine. You're just not going to do it. You're going to get one of those bucks that happens to come by and smell it, a doe that happens to smell it. You're not going
Mhm.
to get consistent activity at your scrapes using urine on your licking branches and ropes. Uh, it turns to ammonia rapidly. It goes away fast.
Mhm.
Real urine doesn't last. And it's not like when you pour it in the ground and you can dump a gallon and a half of water or 2 gallons of water on top of that scrape and reactivate
Mhm.
some of that ammonia smell. And let's be realistic. That's all you're doing when you're pouring water in your scrapes is moistening the molecular smell again. That's all it is.
Mhm.
We can't necessarily smell it, but the deer will smell it. So, and it's why, because it's down on the ground and it comes up and gets on that lower tier where the deer walk with their head down, smelling all the time. You don't very often see a deer with his head up, sniffing way up high like a dog will on the wind like that.
Mhm.
If you do, it's probably bad. If you got a
Yeah, well,
deer
it's
that's
because it
got
knows.
their head up like that, sniffing, they've got you probably.
Yeah, they picked up on something,
Something that
so
they don't like normally. Yeah, they don't normally,
yeah.
that's not a normal behavior. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's just not natural to have urine up in the trees.
So let's ruffle some more feathers. What are some other things that probably shouldn't be up in the air like that?
Oh, honestly, you shouldn't be putting tarsal glands up in your licking branches and all of this. I know your grandpa told you to cut the tarsal glands out of that ruddy buck and go hang them
Mhm.
in the tree. Go hang them in a tree somewhere and bring that big old buck in. Well, if you're gonna cut the tarsal glands out of that buck and use them right. Tie them together and drag them behind you on the ground. Stand on your scrape, above your scrape, and squirt urine through them. Throw them on the ground and
Mhm.
rub them together with your foot on the ground and get that gland out in the dirt. Put them back in the
Mhm.
bag and go away. Don't hang them in the trees. They don't belong in the trees. Just like the testicles and all of that when you cut them off. I know that's a big
Mhm.
joke for everybody to, yeah, ha, ha. I'm going to go put this by my buddy's blind and hang it in the tree so it hits him in the face. Yeah, that's funny. But if you take that same set that you cut off and you go hang them in the bushes behind one of your scrapes or right near one of your entrances, those deer are going to stop and sniff those every time. It doesn't matter what deer it is. They're going to stop and sniff that set every time
Mhm.
because who walking through the woods isn't including you and I isn't going to stop and go, whoa, who left that big set there?
What happened there?
Right. Whoa, that poor guy left his stuff there. Forgot those.
I have I have never done that. This is honestly it's the first time I heard doing something like that.
Well,
So
there you go. You learned something new from me.
learned something new today.
It's not all, look, man, I'm a Gen Xer. I didn't do everything nice when I was a kid.
That's a new one by me. So tarsal glands, keep them on the ground. Don't be
Yeah.
throwing them up in the tree. And once again, it goes back to like it's natural. There's so much talk about tarsal glands and stuff, and a lot of people are like, oh, you need to get those off, as soon as you possible because they'll ruin the meat. I'm like, at what point do the tarsal glands touch the meat? That's my question
Yeah.
for you.
Again, that goes back. That's old school thinking,
Right.
and you cut them out because you're going to use them later.
Hmm.
Then you stick your knife in that deer. That's how you taint it. That's the thought there. Oh, there's where you did it. They're thinking that it actually just got on there because that's what they taste. Well, you did it
Hmm.
yourself by cutting it off first. Take care of gut your deer, cut it, do what you're going to do with that knife first, then cut those glands off.
Yeah.
They don't taste very good. I promise.
No, I'm good. They don't smell all that great either, so I can just imagine they don't taste as
Right.
they
So,
definitely
and
don't taste
again,
better than they
back to
smell.
those tarsal glands. Honestly, that's the easiest one for a normal guy to get their
Hmm.
hands on is that tarsal gland.
Hmm.
Um, and if I were going to keep one and use one for myself, I would take it off of a deer, use it, and get rid of it. This keeping it in a bag and freezing it from year to year is silliness. Just get fresh ones. They're not hard to get. I
Hmm.
mean, it, keep a get one off of a doe on the side of the road and spray it with more tarsal. You know what I mean? You can
Hmm.
buy tarsal gland, tarsal gel, any of that. If you're just
Hmm.
going for the gland itself, just get it and just grind it together. It doesn't matter, you know.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at with that. And as far as the buck doe urine separation thing, there's a big push for that. Well, you got to use doe urine. You got to the young buck urine, old buck urine, old doe urine, young doe urine, blah 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 urine, and it's all just urine. It just is all just piss. Just is what it is, man.
That you pissed away a bunch of money on, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and to me, it is a money grab for the most part for a lot of the
Hmm.
companies. Are there some small urine producers out there? Yeah, there are, but they're not very many. And are they quality? Yeah, they are. I know there's at least one guy in Michigan that if I were to have to buy urine, that's where I would get it without question. Um, he has the best, and it's handled the best.
Hmm.
So, but I don't have to. So,
Right.
um,
Yeah, I know. I got a few people that swear by certain things, and Tank 69 used to be like used to be like the king. And I'm sure it might still be in some circles. You know, a lot of other companies that come out, but you know, Ting 69 used to be the big one. Um, and I'm not like mention that to talk crap on the company. I'm just saying that
No,
that
no, I
used to be
got you.
like the king of it. And you know, but there are some things that certain people are just that's at the end of the day, even though we're having this conversation right now, right? And in some way we're poo-pooing on some of the techniques.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, though, if it gives you more confidence to go out and sit in the woods and more confidence to pay attention, more confidence to be out there, is it really hurting anything at the end of the day? Because it gets you out there and unfortunately you can't kill stuff sitting on the couch. You know what I mean? You can't be
That
out there,
part's the truth. Um,
you can't kill a buck sitting on the couch.
but
Right.
in defense of what all of what I said, and then say put it where you put it, you can't kill
Mhm.
bucks trying to kill them the wrong way either.
No, you're right.
So yeah,
Nope.
I mean, I'll go with you. At least they're giving it an effort. They're trying.
Mhm.
You know, they're giving it that old college try. You know, but
Right.
sometimes that just isn't good enough. You know, sometimes you got to do more than just try. So I
You
just
know, back
let
to that
people
thing.
do what they
Back,
do, and then I politely ask, or when they ask somewhere else and I see it, you know what I mean? I interject
right.
then. I don't go chasing people around and do all of that. That's not how we want to do things. So
It's back to that definition of insanity. If you're using the same thing, expecting different results, and you're not getting them, hey, it might be time to just to change it up a little bit, right? It might be time to open your eyes, open your ears, and maybe try something a little bit different and see what that if you get a different result from that.
because
So
sometimes even stepping outside the box isn't that far outside the box.
no,
Maybe it's still inside the box and you're just at a different level of the box, you know?
that's why I would put you in your system. Like you're not outside of the box, really. Like it's not some far fetched idea. If you think about it, it's not. You know, you said it yourself. You're not trying to reinvent the wheel. You're not outside the box. We're still. It's a different way of looking at it. So I guess maybe okay, maybe we took one step outside. You know, we're like an inch outside the box. Like we're not. But when I say the box, it's the box is more like just how most people the conventional thought of mock scrapes, and I think we've hit enough on that that people when I say that you should know what I'm talking about at
Oh,
that
for
point.
sure.
So but if that is the box, if that is the constriction of the box, then yes, you are a little bit outside of the box. But if we're just talking mock scrapes in general and what they are, you're not that far
No,
off the
it's the
box.
norm. We're the norm. I mean, everybody is within
Hmm.
the norm because I mean, let's face it, it's a natural scrapes are a natural thing for deer anyway. So how far outside that box can you get? You know, okay, so you
Right.
make a mock scrape, you use whatever you use in it. That's as far out as you can get. I mean, and okay, you can make a rope and you can do all these other things, make all these other little gadgets that we do and use,
Hmm.
but we're still in the box, you know,
Hmm.
where I feel like I've stepped outside of that. The constraints of the box is my actual system, the way that we set everything up specifically.
Hmm.
Um, because a lot of people and a lot of other companies, they're in it to sell their products
Right.
only. I want to sell my
Hmm.
ropes. I want to sell my vines. I want to sell my scents. I want to sell my hats and my t-shirts. And that's all I
Hmm.
want to do. And then I want my customers to tell me how good my stuff is and to show me pictures. I want that too, but I also want you to know that I'm using my own things. You know, I use my own
Right.
stuff with huge results and huge success. My inner circle uses our products with huge success. Uh, and it's because they're using the system the way that we lay it out. And that's why. Simple as that. Like I've
Hmm.
said to you probably 100 times now, hanging a rope or creating a licking branch in the woods and having a deer come to it or having 20 deer come to it, that's not a pattern. You're not, I mean, that's one scrape that has activity on it. You're not going to
Hmm.
hold deer on a property with one scrape and nothing else to do and no other reason to be there.
Right.
So it goes much deeper. It goes way beyond that licking branch, way beyond the licking branch. So
So getting back to sense, I want to
Yeah,
throw something out here. What is probably the most crazy or the most absurd thing you've seen somebody say, do, or whatever for like a mock scrape in the use of sense?
man.
Is that a fair question?
I mean, yeah, it is. It is. It's more of a it goes. See, it just really it's just that whole urine in the trees to me.
Hmm.
That really is the one thing that I have that I can't get beyond that because it's wrong. It's not right. Naturally, physiologically, it's wrong for the deer to want to do that. I just
Right.
they're either flying or they're walking on their front feet, and I just don't see the evidence.
I don't think either happens.
It's not
All right.
Christmas every
So,
day.
no. And I've watched a lot of deer in the woods and I'm yet to see that. So, and most of the time when deer pee, they're squatting. So
Just
I've
about
never
every
seen
single time.
never seen them hike a leg or anything like that. Now, if you told me I was hunting wolves or something, or a canine or a feline, okay, you might get me on up a tree a little bit, not that far up, but a little
A
bit. I will
feline
give you
maybe
that.
because that you get a spray at least. You'll
Yeah.
you know.
Hmm.
But
Not a deer.
not a deer. Sorry, I can't buy into that. And once you get your mind to realize that you're being told the truth, that it's not proper to put your urine in your licking branches, and you separate that, and you put the urine where it belongs on the ground, and you
Hmm.
put your other sense, your communication sense, in the licking branches and the foliage and the twigs and things that surround that are on your rope, your hemp rope, your
Hmm.
grapevine, whatever the case may be. Huge switch up in the way that the deer interact with your stuff. Huge.
Hello, everyone. This is Sean Smith of the Chasing Your Experience podcast. We interrupt this episode to let you in on some exciting news. If you're looking to upgrade your mock scrape game this year, then head over to scrapedoctor.com and fill your carts full of scrape magic, maybe a poison ivy or two, just a rope squared, or even just a rope. And then enter the code CountryFried10. That's Country Fried, spelled with a K, the number 10, and save yourself a little bit of money. And now, back to the pod. So here's an interesting thought. Here's an interesting question. And I just first thought, just let it go and give me your answer on this. But if you were going to rank from most frequent to less frequent use by the deer, what would you, or maybe that's not the best way to phrase it, but hear the question, and then maybe we can make the question make sense. Is if you're going to rate which scent, which, gland, which urine, which whatever it is, right? If you're going to rank from most common communication to the least common communication, what would that be? And let's keep it to the realm of scents, because let's say urine's a scent. That's the reason why we're using it. It's a scent, right?
Right,
It's
right.
something that smells like a deer. Tarsal glands are scents. Pre-orbital gland is scents. And even there was used to be a rub line, a rub
Yeah.
ooze or rub goo or something that was supposed to be mimic
Forehead glands.
the forehead gland, forehead glands. Easy for me to say right now. So, but if you're going to rank them from most frequent or the most important to the least important, let's do it that way.
All right.
How would you rank them?
Pre-orbital is number one every time.
Okay. Okay.
Then you're going to go to the forehead. Then you're
Okay.
going to probably go to your interdigital,
All right.
the one here in the hooves.
Right.
Then
Okay.
then then probably then you're probably going to go into your tarsal glands and urine
Okay.
and urine because urine is not a stand in my mind is not a standalone scent. It has to go to be useful. It needs to go through the tarsal glands. So tarsal glands and then urine at the end. Urine's the
Hmm.
least important.
Okay.
Um,
And I think that's a fair. That's fair. So let's. So since preorbital is the most important, right? And because that's the one that usually the mock scrapes are kind of following along with, is going to be that preorbital and probably the forehead, right? And those would be your main ones. You know, one is I don't know if I want to go down this road because we talked about this a little bit off air. I don't. I know tarsal glands get thrown in this conversation a little bit at a time. I just don't see. I'm having a hard time imagining how a deer would get tarsal gland sent into a tree. I'm having a hard time. I'm having a hard time visualizing that.
Well, the thought process there is that they rub that on their head, and then they rub it in that licking branch and up in those trees and all of that. Uh, and in my opinion, that's not a purposeful thing. They're not rubbing back there on purpose on that tarsal gland, saying, "Hey, I got to get
Mhm.
this tarsal gland on my forehead to get up in that." It's not. That's not something that I've been hunting a long time. You know, since the early '80s. So I've got a few years in the woods. I've watched a
Mhm.
lot of deer. I've watched a lot of scrapes. I've had cameras on. If there were a number, it would be. I would probably be shocked of how many cameras I've put on scrapes. Uh,
Mhm.
have I seen deer rub their face and their foreheads on their tarsal glands? Yeah, I have. But have I ever seen one immediately go up and rub it in a licking branch? Nope. Honest, I've never seen that. There are guys that are going to say, yeah, it happens all the time. I see it all the time. Uh, what I see is a deer rubbing that tarsal gland, maybe itching their face more than anything, because that's how deer itch their faces, with that hind leg. They
Mhm.
don't itch with their front legs.
Right.
So my mind is seeing that. Uh, I'm looking past that. I'm a half full guy. I'll go with your glass is
Mhm.
half full, but don't tip it over on the way by and try to tell me that
Mhm.
the glass just broke. You know what I mean? Because that's just not, it's not something I see. And if you get results with it, kudos to you. But
Mhm.
I'll never tell anyone to do it on purpose.
Back to, hey, if you're getting results with it, you got the confidence, just use it. I understand that. So if you're going, so let's keeping that ranking in mind. So urine's at the bottom, pre-orbital is at the top of the list,
Yeah.
right? If you're going to promote a scent program or a scent system for somebody, what would what would you tell them to focus on then?
The deer's face. That's where the glands are that you care about.
Okay.
Forehead and preorbital, right here. It's right in their face. That's
Mhm.
it's where you want to be. Those are the ones that they're using. They're doing this with that. You know what I mean? You
Mhm.
have to you have to think like a deer. They're rubbing their whole face in there. So those are the two glands that matter for what we're seeing in these licking branches and the reactions that we get. And you see the reactions.
Mhm.
There's there's your answer right there. We've got the synthetic preorbital, added a little bit of synthetic forehead reaction gland.
Mhm.
Synthetic again. None of this is all man-made stuff. So now, and some other stuff to create other instinctual behavior. And that's the thing is we're trying, not trying, we are. I used to say we're trying. Now I'm telling people we are
Right.
recreating this kind of behavior every day, every day, every day, every day. I'm watching trail camera notifications come across as we talk from Ohio. That the scrape's on fire right now. So it's 7:20. It's been going since about 7 o'clock. So is when the first picture came across. So I don't know
Well,
if
you
you've
can't
got
argue
any
with this.
turned on yet or not, but they'd be going if they were.
See, we can't argue with the results. So did I hear you correct? And and I want to plug your Scrape Magic in here right now,
Yep.
right? So did I hear you correct that the Scrape Magic, the synthetic scent that you sell, and is the main focus of your guys' system, that replicates both the preorbital and the forehead? Did I hear that correctly?
Yep.
Okay. And I'm not going to ask you what your secret sauce is. I'm
Yep.
not
No, I
asking
got you.
that, but I just wanted to know it, just to make sure. So, what you're saying is of the ratings that we just gave you, right? You are replicating the 100% the first two, the
Yep.
the two most important,
Yep.
the preorbital and the forehead, in that one product, right?
Absolutely.
And well, I mean, I get it, I understand, and it's one of those things. So, here's my experience with using certain things, right? So a lot of people like, there's a few scents out there that are like, oh, this is like a trophy rutting buck or something, or mature buck or whatever. I've got deer that run from that, right? They don't want anything to do with that, right? In my mind. And also it's what I've seen. I've also seen deer that, I've also seen does that if you're using like an estrus scent, I don't know if anybody has seen does do this. If there's a doe in estrus, the other does do not want to be around her
Right.
because they know what's going to be coming, and they're going to be pestered. Believe it or not, it's like a bar scene that you have a bunch of drunken, you know, young men coming into this coming into this bar and constantly pestering the ladies in there, and there's only gonna be one, maybe two takers that be like, okay, well, we're game. The other ones don't want to be bothered, right? And they're trying to, and they want to stay away from that one that's
Yep.
attracting all the attention because they don't want these like, hey, have fun, see you later, and they want to get away from that. It's exactly the same. It's a good metaphor, a good analogy for the deer too. Like,
Yep.
if there's a doe in estrus, the other doe stay away from her because they don't want to be bothered by the bucks coming in.
Yep.
And believe it or not, they don't like being chased. It's not their favorite thing to do. It's
But it ain't Disney out there. I mean, though it's not something
no,
that it's not what people think it is. It's
no.
wild animals breeding is brutal.
Yeah, and I gotta imagine it's gotta be pretty. And I don't know. I'm not a
It's
deer counselor, and I don't claim
it's
to be, but I
intense.
gotta imagine it's gotta be pretty traumatic on a doe.
It's intense. The buck that I've got right that's over here behind me. I
Mhm,
actually that deer actually was taken. He was actively breeding a doe. He had a doe in a hole. He had her pinned in this spot in a low spot.
mhm,
Um, when I got him, and that poor deer, he was still dripping and he was bloody raw. The whole sheath, he had no fur left. I don't know how many does that poor guy had bred, but it was a bunch. I can tell you that because if mine looked like that, I wouldn't want to be using it. You
it's
know,
like I'm done.
it was it was truly probably the most active breeding scene
Mhm,
and situation that I've ever encountered and harvested a buck and killed a buck out of.
mhm,
It was it was exactly like we say it is. He had her
mhm,
pinned. He was
mhm,
making a rub. He was tearing up a bush. I could hear him grunt. I could hear him making just guttural sounds. And she was
mhm,
standing 20 yards away, and it was about to be on again. And then I took
mhm.
care of that. So saved her a little bit of a rough day. Again,
Yeah, I
I
guess.
think that people think that it's something that it's not. It's brutal. It's not Valentine's Day at our house. You know
Oh,
what I mean?
no.
So,
So back to that though, like I've seen deer that avoid those specific scents, right? Because
yep,
even we'll just assume, right, that trophy buck scent is actually trophy buck scent, and they know the difference, right? We'll just assume that
yeah,
for this. Like, I'm not saying that is, but we'll just
yeah,
assume it. I've seen deer run from it. They don't want nothing to do with it. I don't blame them, especially young bucks or more timid bucks or does because they don't want to be around that because they know what that means. But and they also run from the estrus. Now it will maybe bring bucks in. I'm not fully fully convinced, but it's not. But it can bring bucks in. I've had some examples where I think it helped in a couple situations pull bucks in to me or close to me, right? So maybe I'll give it. I'm more on the side. I'm in the middle of the road, but I'm more on the side that it could help than I am the other side. So we'll just put it that way. If it's enough to win a civil case, we'll put it that way. And then, but with the scrape magic or something similar to that, that focuses on the two most important communication glands or sense. I've had does that come to it. I've had bucks that come to it, and even if they act a little bit cautious at first, they eventually end up rubbing on it because it's not threatening to them because it's a scent that everybody
yeah,
has. Now each one might have their particular. musk, particular scent about them.
Well, you have to think
But
about it like this. They kind of have to.
yeah,
They know they'd all smell alike. That'd be
right.
like all of us looking alike. How would we tell each other apart? I mean, go talk to Bill over there. Well, which one's Bill? Get that guy right over there. You know,
It'll raise your hand. About 20 people raise their
right.
hands.
So, so they it has to be different in every deer.
Right.
DNA markers are different in every animal. So
Mm-hmm.
you're going to have a different scent on every gland that they have.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's that. And you made the point right there when you said, I've had does come to it. I've had bucks come to it. Well, don't forget you've had fawns come to it, and you've had,
Mm-hmm.
you know, every deer has come to it.
Mm-hmm.
And that whole are they're cautious at first sometimes, not always.
Right.
Sometimes they walk
Yeah.
right up, nose in it, and just, hello, how you doing? And other times
And just
they
start
get
rubbing
they
against it.
stretch
Mm-hmm.
their neck out, take a big sniff, and then their feet follow in behind that, and that's when you know
Mm-hmm.
you've got them. As long as
Mm-hmm.
their feet follow in and their neck shortens up and they keep sniffing that, you got them.
Mm-hmm.
They're not you won't scare them at that. You know what I mean? They're good. I use the scare them term loosely because deer are inherently easy to scare, period. Um,
Mm-hmm.
or startle. We should use the word startle probably more than anything. Probably the most high strung animal on the planet, truthfully. So,
I don't know. Have you seen an axis deer?
actually, no, I've never seen one in the wild, but that could be on the list.
Yeah, I wanna get a couple hunts put together for them. I've heard they're really good eating, but they're pretty high strung.
Yeah,
Um,
delicious but hard to kill.
well, I mean, you got to think about it. I mean, I think the only thing that's actually more of a prey animal than a deer would be like a rabbit. Like they are just that's their life. That's just what they are. It's their
Yeah,
prey, and their first thing is to run like hell.
yeah, fight or flight,
So
and it's always flight.
yeah, and deer are the same way. Like I mean, well, for the most part, they'll turn and fight if they got to, and depending upon what time of year it is, the buck will and you get some idiots that will put these scents on themselves, and I've never understood why somebody would want to do that ever. Um,
I won't discourage people from putting scrape magic or whatever on their boots and stuff, or on a
mhm,
drag or things like that.
mhm,
But I don't. It's you're going to get the reaction from it. I can promise that. I've
mhm,
got several stories of deer right now. They're after you. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily going to
mhm,
get you, but I do have two stories where the deer actually were after the person they were trying to attack. I just
mhm,
actually, my dad today, somebody talked to my dad today and told him a story about the scrape magic, and he accidentally got it on the ladder of his ladder stand, and he was in his stand, and a buck about tore the ladder off, come up and started to rub on the ladder and about ripped it off the lower half of it. He almost couldn't get out of the stand. So, I don't discourage guys from putting it on their boots and stuff and walking in, but
mhm.
at this point, I mean, truly, with some of the stories that I'm hearing like that, I would say probably better put it on a drag and pull
Yeah,
it in that way and not get it on your
mhm,
clothes or on your boots, your gloves, none of that,
right,
so that you get it on your stands. I don't want to
right.
be responsible seriously for some guy getting pommeled. It would make a great story and, would do get me a lot of publicity, I'm sure, but might not be the best kind.
No, no, no. So if you're going to let's narrow this down, like so if somebody comes to you and says, "Hey," and let's just take out the fact, and I know this is hard, and maybe how do I say this? Let's take you away from your product line, right? And you are just you're an let's say you're an expert, but you don't own Scrape Doctor, right? You know about it, but you don't own it, right? Let's take you out from that.
Okay.
If somebody came to you, right, and asked you, "Hey, listen, I'm kind of limited on what I can purchase right now, but I want to get the most bang for my buck when it comes to like a scent." All right. So I'm looking at some options here. Like I got some like doe and estrus urine that I see. A lot of people would tell me. I see this, some tarsal gland stuff, and then I'm seeing this the other stuff on the market that is, like pre-orbital gland and forehead gland. Like if I'm going to get narrowed down to one of those, and that's the only thing I can afford for my entire season, what do I go with?
Oh, for sure, the pre-orbital forehead gland. Every time. Always, always, always. The licking branch, always. And that goes without, it doesn't matter what you put on it. Honestly, it doesn't matter if
Mhm.
you just take a vine out in the woods and hang it and leave it and don't put anything on it.
Mhm.
Um, that's why you're hanging it, because they're going to leave the preorbital gland and the forehead gland of their own. So
Mhm.
why would you use anything else? The deer
No,
tell you
that
what
makes
to
sense.
use. The deer are telling you what to use, so you should use it.
Yeah, that makes sense to me because, like, it's basically it's everything we talked about already leading up to that very question was like, listen, it's the one thing that I've not had deer run from, right? I've seen deer run from this, I've seen deer run from that. I've also had deer come into those same things, right? But with that particular scent or that particular combo, right? Or just that communication, um, whatever you want to call it, hormone, pheromone, whatever it is you want to call it, right?
Yeah,
And I've get deer that both sexes, all age classes will come to that and will investigate it.
yeah,
They'll either leave their scent there or they'll at least investigate to see who's been there.
yeah,
And then they don't run off. Like they want to come in and see that.
yeah.
And that makes sense to me as to why that would be why you would want to be that focal point of that. If you're going to go all in on something, or if there's one thing you were going to buy, that would probably be the one direction that I would go. Is that right there?
Absolutely,
And
every
it
single
works.
time.
And it works year round.
Yeah,
Like rut works, pre-rut works, off
100%,
season.
100% of the time. Because even that guy that comes to me that's I only have this. I can only buy one thing for the season. What do you suggest? And obviously, I tell him
Mhm.
the spray magic. Well, what about when it's time for the rut and I gotta have, look, if you need urine that bad, you carry it around with you every day. Drink an extra cup of coffee before you go to the woods. You'll have some when you get there, you know. Spray it in your, spray it in the scrape out of a water bottle. Pee in a water bottle and keep that. You know what I mean? And use that. My deer are back out here.
Are they?
Yeah, I just watched them walk up. I don't think they're gonna stay tonight. It doesn't look like it.
They'll circle back, come back around, watch them.
Probably. We have some new neighbors, so
You're gonna check them out. So, I think we've covered a good bit on scent. Like we've covered a lot about the do's, the don'ts.
yeah,
Um, without throwing a lot of shade on like certain brands. Like,
yeah,
well, that's not the point behind this. This is kind of just a generalized thing, and I want to make sure we understand that is like, and I do say like I have used certain things that I think were marginally successful,
yes,
right? Um, I'm just what I'm saying, and I think what you're saying, you can say what you are saying again and kind of in a nutshell here. But what I'm saying, just to rehash or just to nail in what we just got done talking about, if there was a scent that I was going to use, and it's in I use yours, Scrape Magic, right? I use yours. First off, because I know you, right? But like but it's going to be that category of stuff, right? That it would be that category of scent that I would pick from, right? And I know you're humble enough to tell people, listen, you got to find what works for you. If you don't necessarily like our stuff, then fine, find something else that is in your wheelhouse that you like. But these are, I'm sure you're not the only one who has a pre-orbital scent or the only one that has a forehand scent, right? Or claims to have it, right? I can't speak for everybody that they
right.
may or may not be real or not, right? I can't speak for them. But the point is that I'm trying to make is that if you want to get serious and you want to use something that is going to be successful for you, like not like the anchor man, 60% of the time it works every time. Not that. I'm talking 100% of the time it works.
Yeah,
Stick to the top two of that rating,
yeah,
the pre-orbital and the forehead.
yeah. In my opinion, yes, every time. And it does, and like you just said, doesn't matter the company. There are other synthetic companies out there. There are other companies that are
Mhm.
producing something similar, possibly. Um, Results wise, that's questionable. But that's me saying that over somebody else will say the exact opposite, so, and that's fine. But the bottom line
Mhm.
is look, this whole scrape thing, mock scrape thing, you're not a one horse show here, one pony show. It just ain't happening that way. We got to use more than one thing to make these things work.
Mhm.
I don't just use mock scrapes. We've talked about that. I've got food plots.
Right.
I've got water holes. I've got travel corridors that we've created. We've got a lot of things that we create to
Mhm.
direct these deer the way we want them directed and where we want them to be. And the scrapes just happen to be our focus because that's what we have for products. We
Mhm.
partner with a lot of great companies. I'm going to be sending one of those guys your way to talk. My food plot seed guy, Tony from Red Light. Great
Awesome.
guy, fireman, full-time fireman here in Michigan. So
Uh-oh.
yeah, so I'm sure you guys can chat.
Oh, well, there'll be some banter. I'll tell
I
you
have
that.
no doubt of that. I have no doubt. Um, Great, but either way of that, he's a great dude. You'll really like him. And it'll make a great episode because the guy knows his stuff and he's got great, great products. Seeds are great. Germination rates are insanely fast. Take a dirt plot and in 3 days it's green, just
Hmm.
like a green haze over the top of it, and within a week you've got ankle deep. So it's good stuff. So I'll get him on. I'll get him on to you and get him sent over to you, and you guys can have a conversation.
I appreciate it. And I'd be more than happy to talk to him. And if this episode comes to fruition, folks, you're not going to miss it because I'm law enforcement, he's firefighter. And if you've not seen us interact with each other, it's usually a good time. So I'll
Just
tell you that
just
much.
that it's,
So
that in itself would be worth watching.
it's usually a good time, especially for the spectators. Well, I think we covered a good bit.
We did.
We definitely have covered the don'ts, the watch outs, and I think we give them a good rating system. If we're going to rate from most important to least important, and then you can make up your mind, folks. At the end of the day, you can make up your mind what you want to use and whether and whatever gives you the most confidence to go
Right.
out there
And
and
I
choose
guess
your
you can, if
experience.
you want to spray urine in the trees, you go right ahead. If that makes you feel good about it, you go ahead. If that's what you always did, and that guy taught you that you watched on the internet taught you how to do, then you go right ahead.
Mhm.
Um,
Be,
but when
be
it's
our
not, when
guest.
it's when it's at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, when that's not working for you, you know where to find me. I'm not that far away. Scrapedoctor.com isn't hard to find.
And I agree with you on that. Like it goes back to if you are not getting the results you want, then it's time to make a change instead of just sticking with the same thing over and over again. Because you might be surprised at how much of a difference just a small tweak can make. Well, James, I think we are about to the end of this one. I think we've covered what we can about sense and the proper sense, and
Yeah.
like I said, we've given a good roadmap when it comes to sense and what to watch out for, and really, I think we really hammered in something, at least one category of sense that they probably should narrow down to.
Yeah, that would
And
be. I mean, that's maybe not even
I like it.
narrow it, not nail it down, but that's the one. That's the key scent they should be
Mhm.
looking for. Um, is that one the pre-orbital it specifically is what they're going to see on every package. They're
Yeah.
that's the one that's in the new. That's the one that's on all the packaging now and on all the
Mhm.
ads that you see on the internet. Pre-orbital this, pre-orbital that. Um, Funny how sometimes that kind of stuff happens.
It's gone viral.
It's
It's
gone viral.
done gone viral.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully it's not just a trend. There's a lot of things that are trends, but I don't think this is necessarily just a trend. I think this is actually like this is fact. This is science. This is what this is it, right? So certain fads come for certain fads go. But I don't think this is one because this is based in deer biology. The end. This is their key communication tool, and it's how you use it to your advantage to set up your ambush or set up that perfect moment or that perfect shot for yourself.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure those are going to be topics at least discussed in later episodes. So make sure you guys like and subscribe and follow the show so you don't miss out on those upcoming episodes for sure. James, with that being said, is there anything you want to say in closing? You want to give them some ideas where to find you? I know we've talked
Yeah,
about them before, but
again,
new episode.
here we go again with that. I'm on all the socials: TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. Um, find all our products at scrapedoctor.com. You go anywhere on any of my socials, my direct contact information is there, phone number and all of that, email. Feel free to reach out if anybody's got questions. Um, and other than that, just remember that memories are forever and they're free, and you should get out there and make some.
Well, James, like I've said before, I don't think I could say it better. And I appreciate you taking the time to sit and talk with us and spreading the knowledge you have and just have those conversations. Then, even just to move that needle a little bit, or maybe just get people thinking in a little bit of a different direction and maybe get them out of that pattern of insanity and more towards the goals that they are looking for. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we hope that you've enjoyed this episode. If you do, please take a moment to give us a little bit of a rating, a comment, and follow the show on whatever podcast platform that you are listening to it on. But until our experiences cross paths again, may you have the courage to fail, but yet have the humility to learn. And as always, we hope you stay safe out there, and God bless you. Thank you for listening to the Country Fried Outdoors Chasing Your Experience podcast. Before you go, don't forget to leave us a review and follow the show on the podcast platform of your choice. Are you hungry for more Country Fried Outdoors? Then follow us on Instagram at Country Fried Outdoors, or subscribe to our YouTube channel at Country Fried Outdoor Productions.